Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the first locomotive released by Aurora Miniatures. Now this is a really new company on the scene in HO scale models. Their first release were some containers that we reviewed just a few to several months ago. Now they've released their first locomotive, and it's the HO GMD SD60F. This is equipped with DCC and sound, and this is the Canadian version with stripes as delivered version. So let's get in the box and see what you get in this new model from Aurora Miniatures. Alright, we'll lift the lid off of this locomotive here. And in the box, you've got packaging that's similar to some models we see where there's screws at the bottom. And there are decals included in here, completely sealed up. Instruction manual is a tri-fold booklet. So as you can see there, if you have a DC version even, you can pop off the dynamic fan grill and install the DCC decoder. But here are the functions for this locomotive. The CVs as well to adjust the horn, how to remove the shell, and it talks about warranty and repair information on the back. Now, usually I might skip a part like this, but we're going to give you the full unboxing experience. I'm going to leave these on because it'll help hold this locomotive as I release it from the screws that are holding it in on the bottom. And I've got to angle this so that, you know, it doesn't go flopping around. I'm not really a fan of this type of packaging, but all packaging has its own pros and cons. The specific con with this one is lost screws to mount it with, which one's already popped out, and the locomotive can go flopping around. Plus, it's not exactly easy to pack these away if you've ordered a whole fleet of them. Okay, we're going to start at the front of the locomotive where you'll see a LED headlight and ditch lights along with this bell mounted right there on the front of the windows here. You got a 4 window configuration, each with its own very fine, very thin metal windshield wiper, sand filler hatches and grab irons on the nose. You've got tri-colored class lights, which all are supposed to operate, we'll check later, that are LEDs, LED headlight, the ditch lights there, along with the safety chain on the stanchions, anti-climber, coupler cut lever, which is a little hard to see because everything's in a sea of black. I'll try to zoom in for you there. But also airline hoses and brake line hose coming through the window of the snowplow, with the snowplow in that CN striped paint scheme. You can also see, as we turn here, the trucks with the sanding lines and all of the other finely detailed and painted appearance there, along with the cab window up top. There's an ice skate antenna, a dynamic brake fan. You've got your exhaust and your dustbin hatch up top, along with a horn mounted to the left of the exhaust. There are, although it's hard to see, try to angle it again for you. More details as well. If you look towards the back, you got a winterization hatch and radiator fans, which the fans are supposed to operate on this, so that'll be an interesting thing to see. And speaking of the exhaust, according to the website, you can install a smoke unit in this. I'm not going to be able to test that out for you guys, but that is supposedly the case. There are also lifting rings. You can see some. They're a little hard with, like I said, the sea of black, but you can see some along the top of the locomotive as well. Going back to the side, you can see the taper. I think these are kind of funnily named Draper tapers, but there's a taper where this angles in here to the cab from the body of the locomotive. And the radiator fan grills on the side as well towards the back. You've got that striped appearance of Canadian National. And as we look on the back here, more of what we've already talked about. These, I believe, are plastic couplers. And I hear they're pretty difficult to change out from what I've seen to KDs for people that want to do that, but you can swap them out to KDs. A little porthole on the back and a access door to the engine room area. MU stand on the back here in between the stanchions. And there's some brake chain detail on this side as well. That is actually chain, very small chain. Sometimes it's molded, so I just had to check for you real quick. Another porthole. And we are back at the front here towards the fuel tank. I think that's an air dryer, but you can kind of see what's going on. Lots of fine print as well. All of it appears to be legible when I'm zoomed in and looking at this closely. Mostly through a viewfinder. My eyes tend to fail me lately. So there's a 360 of the locomotive. So it's important not to forget on this model that on the underside of the model you have traction motor detail molded into the trucks here. And what that does is when you have a side view such as that, and you're looking at your model down basically at eye level on a layout, or one of those mushroom layouts where it's like a double layer and you're eye level with the track, you can really see that detail pop through. So really nice touch from this manufacturer, and I believe it's the first time it's been done on a model, but I could be wrong. I know it's already being done elsewhere, but I think that this might have been a first that was in production. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a neat touch, and it's a good detail-oriented move by the manufacturer, Aurora Miniatures. So we started talking about the SD60F, so I'll give you a little more information. They were built by General Motors in Ontario, Canada, between 85 and 89, and it's a 6-axle electric freight locomotive. Full width cowl, body and cab, tapered section that we talked about immediately behind the cab was for improved rear visibility. There were 64 of them total ever built, and they saw a lot of mainline freight service and CN network both in Canada and the US, but they were all pretty much gone by 2017. They were all retired by Canadian National, and several are still being used by second-hand owners today. So wouldn't surprise me if you saw other variations popping up from Aurora Miniatures in the future. But with that said, I've got the manual open and just verifying here that this is an ESU decoder, which it is, so that means I should be able to hit F8 to start this thing. And that's what I'm going to do here, see if that does the trick. Okay, that's very quiet, so I'm gonna get rid of any noise, including even my humidifier in the background. We're gonna try this again. Okay, I've shut the locomotive down because I need to turn off my dehumidifier. The sound is pretty low. There's a couple different schools of thoughts on sounds, that sounds on models should be relative to what the locomotive would actually sound like if it was shrunk down on a layout, which means it's going to be pretty quiet, and I think they erred towards that side of things versus louder. But we'll go ahead and start this up here with F8 on an ESU LOKSound decoder. Okay, that's startup. We'll go over lighting a little bit in the dark here. I'll go over the bell here, which can be changed with CV164. Horn, which can be changed with CV163. Okay, now with the horn, the sound is a lot better. I think the prime mover is just really low, but you can kind of sense a lack of quality of speaker in the sound. I don't like getting in the weeds on sound too much, but I, kind of can sense that there's dual sugar cube speakers in here from what I can hear, but I can just hear, just kind of like it doesn't have that, it's almost like it's rattling in its baffle, or it just doesn't have the range to really deliver the sound for people that are just complete audiophiles. At first, it sounds great, to regular ear, but I'm just trying to dive a little bit deeper here for people that need to know a little more, that are really insane about the audio, because we cater to such a large audience here. F3's a coupler. F4 is dynamic brakes, which probably have to move it to here. Also hear wheel flange. Yeah, you can hear that dynamic brake whine pretty well. F5 is more lighting, we'll go over. 6 is more lighting. 7 is the flange squeal, which you already heard while moving. 8's the prime mover. F9 is drive hold, which you can press and actually simulate, moving under a load by releasing it, and it'll return to the speed step it was on. F10, independent brake. Okay, F11 is radiator fans, and I'm going to go ahead and hit that now. Okay, I think something was just a bit jammed up in there, or the decoder was getting too many commands, because the radiator fans wouldn't turn on, and then all of a sudden they did. So as you can see, radiator fans actually move. Now they do make a very small grinding noise that is audible over the actual radiator fan sound from the decoder, but still it's a neat feature, and it's not something you have to have. You can turn those off. So it's the first time I know years ago they talked about it. I believe it was MTH that talked about moving radiator fans into a model, and that was when I first got in the hobby over a decade ago, and now we finally see it, so it's pretty neat to see. But as you can see, all three radiator fans are moving at the same speed. For people that are insane about details on the real thing, they're going to be cycling on and off each one individually, but very, very neat feature. Okay, we're running short on time here to keep your attention span, so I'll go through just a few more real quick. That's handbrake. And then there's isolation switch on 15, disable air dryer on 16, F17's brake set release, 18 is sanding valve, 19 is short air let off, 20 is air compressor, 21 is air dryer, 22 is cab door, cab light, 23 is engine compartment doors, 24 is reverser, 25 shutters, 26 is run 8 or notch up, 27 is coast, and 28 is manual notching. So let's get into the dark and see some of the lighting features of this Loco real quick. Alright, the first feature you're going to see, also pretty rare in a model, I've only seen it I think from one other manufacturer, is inside the instrument cluster and lighting of this model. I don't have the best angle, but you can still see it prominently through that window. As we move to this angle, you can see it a little better. It is actually even separated into the different panel lights. So pretty neat feature of this locomotive for sure. Now obviously you can see there are lit number boards on the locomotive, but there's a lot of other lighting as well, and we're going to go over that. So the first one we'll go over is the class lights. I have to turn on the headlight first. Oop. Well, the first one we'll go over is the headlight, because I was in the wrong function here, the wrong locomotive setting. Class lights is F5, headlights F0 obviously. Class lights, you press on and off F5 and it'll cycle through red, green, white, and the headlight there. We also have just the ditch lights, which are F6. You can see those there. So we'll have something on where you can see all three lighting features at the same time there on the nose. And also there are step lights, which are on their own function as well. And I will reposition to show you those. Okay, I've turned on the step lights here, and that is under F13. You can turn those on and off. And while they're on, I'll pull the light away so you can see a little better how that looks in the dark. We're going to do speed step testing here. One speed step. It looks like we might be waiting all day, so I'm going to get this lined up with the front. And it's barely crawling. I'm going to go ahead and have to move this to 2 and higher to get this thing moving. This may be the slowest moving locomotive I've ever seen. 2 is still incredibly slow, but very smooth. Probably the most smooth drive I've seen at these low speed steps in a long time. I'm not seeing much lurch. I know people make comments about the AccuTrack speedometer here, that the little indicator LED is down by kilometers per hour and not miles per hour. I assure you that is on a miles per hour setting, and that miles per hour setting is going to give you an accurate reading in scale miles per hour, but the LED, I guess the way it's done, it's just down at the bottom. So 0.9, not even 1 at 2 speed steps. So you're talking about half a mile an hour on speed step 1, which is insane. So there is your slow speed control, and we also tested how slow the drive works under slow speed, and if it's smooth, and it is very smooth at speed step 2 at just less than a scale mile per hour, which is very impressive. Okay, we're going to do a pull test here. I just got to get this zeroed out and give this a go. The grinding you're hearing is just the wheels not being able to get any more traction on the track, but it's pushing 3.9. That's almost 60 cars by itself, so 2 of these could easily handle a really long consist of over 100 cars. Okay, quick capacitor test. I'll just take this off the track. And it was about 3 seconds. I was a little off from my earlier statement of 5 seconds. But it does have a capacitor built in, which is helpful. I probably need to get a better scale that you can see, but you'll just have to trust my word for it. 1 pound, 5.6 ounces. That's 21.6 ounces or 612 grams. So pretty robust locomotive that directly shows that pulling power that was pretty impressive on the pull test. Well, that's going to wrap this video up. Again, a great model really overall in my personal opinion, but you can make your own with the pros and cons. Tons of pros, just very little problems with the model that are pretty much nitpicky problems for the most distinguished of modelers that are worried about every square millimeter of the model. But overall, you've got an ESU decoder with that GMD 16-710 G3A prime mover. You've got the great ESU sound, I think best in the industry for the decoder. Speakers could leave a little bit to be desired for people that are really audiophiles. The 5-pole skew mount motor is pretty good. There's a keep alive in here. I've disrupted track. It lasts for about 5 or 6 seconds without power on the track, which is good. And I'll show that here before we cut to the actual run by, and just a lot of other great details on this model in my opinion. LED lighting is always good, but that's kind of industry standard at this point. All-wheel power pickup. There's a die-cast chassis, you know, so it helps weigh the locomotive down. So overall, pretty great features of this thing. Alright, we'll leave you with a run by, and we'll see you next time right here on the channel. Take care.